10 o'clock. Can you all hear us okay? No. Well, that's a good start, isn't it? Can I ask you all to turn your phones to off or airplane mode? Putting them on silent is not enough because it interferes with all the equipment. So if you can just take a moment to do that. Are they on now? Okay, so if you can bear with us as we go through the morning in this unusual format. Of course, we don't know all of your faces yet, and I'm very sorry about that. We'll come to know you very quickly. We'll ask you to, through the chairman in a moment, instructions for putting your hands up and for speaking and introducing yourselves. And we've got quite a lot of formalities to get through this morning, so if you can just bear with us and we'll take it as steadily as we can. So if I could call for order for the chair, and I'll hand over to Councillor Gilbert.
Councillor Coe.
Councillor Coburn, I do apologise.
You panicked me then. I thought, my word, the script's gone astray already.
Okay, right. Well, good morning, everybody, and can I welcome you all, especially new members, to this annual meeting of Warwickshire County Council. And the first item on the agenda is the election of a new chairman, and I'd like to ask for nominations. Do I have any nominations?
Yusuf.
Yeah, Councillor Yusuf, I see him over there. Please speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased to nominate Councillor Peter Gilbert as the next chairman of the council. But before doing so, can I first express my sadness at the passing of Chris Williams? He was a kind and good man whom we sorely missed. My condolences go out to Carol and to his family. Before turning to Pete, can I also thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your masterful stewardship of these meetings over the past 12 months. I know your year in the chair may not have been exactly what you'd expected. You came into the role in the midst of a pandemic, as we all had to adapt to a new way of living and of working. And I think I'm correct in saying that, other than the short period you're in the chair for this meeting, every other one has been conducted virtually. This may have proved a daunting task for someone less able, but despite the pitfalls and complications of remote meetings succumbed to and endured by other councils, I do not recall a meeting which you invigilated descending into a cavalcade of nonsense as we've seen elsewhere. At no time was a member called to speak, only for us to be greeted by a cat filter, moving lips and all. We suffered no acrimonious mutings, didn't once hear the anthem of the Soviet Union, nor were you ever required to channel your inner Jackie Weaver. A veritable triumph to have navigated these dangers and a testament to the quality of your chairmanship. I'm glad that your final act in the chair sees members back together in person, even if we are congregated in rows like anxious school children in an examination hall. Yes. The sooner we return to normal, and not a new normal, the better. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for getting us through the last 12 months, and thank you for your years of dedicated service to this council and to Warwickshire. I hope you enjoy your well-deserved retirement. So I'm still going. Now, on to Pete. Given that we have so many new members of this council, there'll be a few who don't know him. Trust me, that'll change quickly, and you'll soon discover that he's one of those rare specimens that's seldom encountered in the wild. As members know, it is customary for the person who's putting forth this proposal to give a brief history of how the incoming chairman got to be where they are today. But when I pressed Pete for details of his autobiography, he simply quips he didn't want all that typical fawning guff spouted about him, as he didn't want today to feel like his political eulogy. So I'll have to wait for his wedding for that. That's if we ever find anyone who'll take him. No volunteers. But it is worth having a whistle-stop tour of Pete's past to help elucidate the inimitable and verbally pugilistic councillor that he is today. He's always been passionate about politics. It was clear that it would play an important role in his life from an early age. It seems with the moment that he could articulate his political thoughts, Mr. Chairman, he was debating with people and making his points in his inimitable forthright manner. On that front, he's never looked back. At only 12 years old, whilst his peers were playing FIFA 94 on their PlayStations or watching the Kennedy family move into Ramsey Street, Pete was out campaigning for the Conservative Party and was arguing with people about politics in his father's pub. At that tender age, he was also attending the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council meetings and asking questions from the public gallery. On one occasion, he tells me, he was even invited into the mayor's parlour with his father after a council meeting by the Labour mayor who'd been impressed by his conviction and passion, despite not agreeing with anything he'd said. And there's no doubt that these formative years made Pete the man and the councillor that he is today. As many here will know, it wasn't easy being a Tory in the mid-90s, and those years helped shape Pete's political life. As a pupil at George Eliot School in Nuneaton, he recalls how it was quite punk to be openly Conservative, and how he was called a scab and Tory scum, and that apparently was just one of the teachers. Although never thin-skinned, his experiences first in the 1994 European Council elections and then the general election in 1997 led him to develop a skin exceeded in thickness only by a rhino. Indeed, he recalls fondly on one occasion when campaigning in 1997 in Nuneaton, he was spat at for simply being a Conservative. How times have changed. It was also during that campaign that Pete suffered his first campaign injury, being bitten by a dog when stuffing a leaflet through a letterbox. Sensibly, he was taken to the local hospital where he explained to the doctor how the injury had occurred and swiftly was administered a shot. Only later did he find out it had been injected into his posterior rather than his arm because the nurse had found out he was a Tory. Now, Pete is a Conservative through and through, there's no debating it, no arguing it. He'll openly tell you that the greatest political speech that he has ever witnessed live was by a Labour MP, John Smith, when the then leader of the opposition spoke at the Birmingham Guildhall. Despite Pete disagreeing with what was said that night, he deeply respected the way in which it was said. By all accounts, it was a typically passionate speech, charged with conviction, skillfully constructed and delivered, attributes that Pete's own political adversaries would be hard-pressed to deny he possesses himself when he speaks in this chamber. Throughout the 2000s, Pete remained engaged in local politics in Nuneaton and Bedworth. In 2004, he took his first tentative step towards elected office, but was sadly unsuccessful in his bid to win the Abbey Ward seat for the Borough Council. 2 years later, he was back on the ballot paper and duly elected to represent Attleborough. During his time on the council, he went on to lead the Conservative group, and indeed the council itself, before exiting the stage to what he tells me was universal and rapturous applause in 2014. After a brief hiatus, Mr. Chairman, he boomeranged back onto the local government stage in 2017 as the Conservative candidate for the County Council seat of Bedworth West, which he went on to win against all the odds. And early this month, he retained that seat with a substantially increased majority. Away from politics, Pete, like his father before him, is best known as a larger-than-life publican. He has now, however, relinquished the day-to-day running of his pub, the Weaver's Arms in Bulkington, to his long-suffering nephew Tom. Nevertheless, he remains one of the pub's most cherished, permanent and well-loved fixtures, second only, apparently, to the Bass Tap. He's also a lover of classic cars, owns several of them, a fan of jazz music, and is a self-confessed Luddite, something I was reminded of yesterday evening when he phoned to say I needed to print his speech and he was coming to collect it. All the more reason to be thankful we're now returning to in-person full council meetings. But Pete's principal passion has always been politics, and he's in it for the right reasons. He firmly believes that politicians should remember at all times why they are elected and by whom. He told me on many occasions that the views of the people should inform the policies of political parties, not the other way round. And the electorate isn't wrong when it makes its voice heard. Although Pete is also known for his feisty rhetoric, I know that when he ascends to the big chair, he'll always be fair and he'll be balanced. He'll also undoubtedly bring his substantial weight of character to the role, both within the chamber and without, and he'll be a strong advocate and champion for this council and for our county. He told me last week, Mr. Chairman, that perhaps he wasn't the chair that we needed, but the one we deserved. I'm not so sure. I think he is what's needed at this moment. The makeup of this council has changed dramatically. One party has such a significant majority that the onus will fall upon its own members, as well as those in opposition, to exercise their common sense, courage and integrity when formulating and scrutinising policy to ensure that it works in the best interests of all the people of Warwickshire whilst also remembering we are comprised the way we are for a reason. It's what people voted for. Those votes, Mr. Chairman, they come with expectations relating to the direction of travel here and shouldn't be taken for granted. I firmly believe that by having Pete as our chairman, it'll be hugely beneficial in that regard. As one of his heroes, John Kennedy, once said, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. I trust Pete to make a difference during his year in the chair and in the years ahead in this council and beyond it. And for that reason, I've no hesitation in formally proposing him as chairman for this council for the forthcoming year.
Very kind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Barker.
Mr. Chairman, and may I associate myself with the words that Yusuf used about you and not repeat them in order to be as brief as I was told I needed to be. 4 years ago, I met Pete in this very hall. We were both Virgin County councillors, and we looked at each other and at the photographer, who we shook our heads at him and said, no way were we going to stand at the back of the family photo with the two of us as slightly large bookends at the back, rocking the boat physically as well as metaphorically. And we've been firm friends ever since. As Yusuf has said, Pete is loyal to his roots, to his friends and to his residents. He is where he's from. He's authentic and compassionate, things which I've witnessed personally, and stories which I cannot share, but which I would attest to. He's always ready to serve and to shake things up. And if ever there was a time for Pete, in chairing this council out of its way, out of the pandemic, now is the time for him. And I'm with Yusuf on that one too. Challenging us, cajoling us and leading us. And I'll be right behind him, as I know the rest of you will be, as things change and as we move into a very different time for this council. Pete told Yusuf and I that we couldn't mention the usual guff for these kinds of speeches. So, no fawning, no background, nothing about his family, no gushing. Well, I can't help but gush a little, because it is an honour to have been asked to second his nomination as chairman of Warwickshire County Council this year. But there's one other reason that Pete needs to be chairman of this council. When you drive a Rolls or a Jag, you need a personalised parking space. He and I have both driven round Barrack Street in our ridiculous oversized cars, late for meetings, rising blood pressure on the third time round. Pete will now be able to glide in seamlessly to his space. No, is it not big enough?
Terrible parking space.
Terrible parking space. He will be able to glide into a space and then probably drive round with me again and again and again, so that he chairs meetings of council with calm aplomb. It's with great pleasure that I second the nomination for Pete Gilbert to be chairman of WCC this year.
Thank you, Joan.
The parking space is a big thing with me.
Do we have any other nominations as chairman? Well, in that case, we will go straight to the vote. Can all those in favour of Councillor Gilbert being chairman, please raise your hands. Okay. Are there any, please put them down now. Are there any against? Are there any abstentions? In that case, it seems overwhelming that you've been elected as chairman. Can I be the first to congratulate you?
Thank you.
And please put your chain of office on. I'm not allowed. Okay, right, yeah.
It's, is this the bit where I sign the declaration?
If you just put your chair
All right. whilst I'm silent.
He obviously doesn't take instruction very well.
It'll be coming off to speak because I'm not very good with jewellery. I don't think it's from Argos, though. It's quite good, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Outgoing Chairman. Here.
Right.
May I take it off to speak? Is that okay?
No, there's no speakers.
Is that done?
No,
Shall I speak? Yeah, when we do the meeting. I shall put it back on for the bulk of the meeting. I hope I don't break it. Okay. Well, there we are. Now, you may have noticed I've got these encyclopedias. My father said that I would never have a use for them. Well, Dad, today, after the best part of 38 years, I've found a use. I don't know what they've got inside, but I've still found a use. Outgoing Chairman of the Council, Vice Chairman of the Council, Leader of the Council, and members of the Council, and officers of the Council. I would first of all like to start by thanking the outgoing Chairman for his tenure. It will, as has already been mentioned, a difficult and challenging year to be Chairman, and you, sir, have represented our county to the highest of standards in the most difficult of times, so honestly, thank you. May I also take this opportunity to pay my respects to our friend, former Councillor Williams, and send my heartfelt condolence to his family at this time. I also thank, I think, Councillor Damash and probably Councillor Barker for proposing and seconding me to be Chairman of this council, of our council, so thank you. As has been mentioned, I was inspired to get into politics through my time growing up in a pub, and I would hear people discuss all aspects of politics in it. But often as a child, instead of people actually talking party politics, I would hear adults complain about the government of the day. And it did make me think at that tender age of how these problems can be tackled and resolved. Now, I know that sounds pretty sad, but that's how a 12-year-old me did think. So at the age of 12, I began to write to my local MP, who I had the pleasure of serving here with for 4 years as well. And I used to ask my MP questions. And he probably, very sensibly, fobbed me off and advised that I was to ask questions from the public gallery of our local town hall. So off to the town hall I went with my questions, all 12 years of confidence. Instead of being smiled at for being a precocious brat, I was chastised by a councillor for actually asking any questions at all. What made it worse was the councillor in question was a teacher, somebody who supposedly was there to inspire young minds, whether you agree with them or not. For all of you who I may have annoyed, and there are many, perhaps you will agree with me that that councillor has a lot to answer for. As we begin to strive to form some normality and reclaim that standard of living we have become accustomed to, it is important for us all to remember that this standard of living is not universally enjoyed by all. Even those who enjoy a good standard of living may still face challenges, whether it be education, employment, housing or health, all areas where we as councillors can have influence. We also live in a time where many organisations and groups who don't seek elected office represent the challenges and problems of many people. And it is important that these groups are listened to and are allowed to inform the process. We must always be conscious that not everyone with challenges and problems has someone to stand up or to speak for them. As members, we are sometimes guilty of being focused on the minutiae, internal squabbles, process, while more urgent, more important challenges and issues are pushed from our minds, forgotten, not given the attention they deserve. I believe we still have much work to do to tackle deprivation and inequality, particularly in education, an area where, sadly, this council appears to have less influence in recent years. It is important that this new council find relevance again in that debate. As someone who serves as a school governor, it is clear to me that in this county and in this country, we have a 3, maybe 4-tier education system. The fact that in this country and county, some children leaving primary school and entering senior school fall off the metaphorical educational cliff, many of them never returning to higher, more stable ground. Now, many factors influence this, and this requires tangible work to understand these difficulties. And this work needs to come up with practical solutions that reinvigorate the sense of aspiration and the value of achievement in education our young people should have. And I'm not talking about abstract sound bites or generalisations. I went to one of these schools. Many of my school friends did fall off that cliff. I perhaps stumbled myself. They were not stupid, they were just kids. They deserved better. Some went on in a very short period of time to prison, and not by choice, the environment. Which is kind of ironic, because that councillor that I was referring to, who questioned me for the question that I asked, referred to me as a 12-year-old me that my school looked like a prison. More concerned about how the place looked as about how it prepared kids for adult life. So on this subject, no question is too difficult, no answer is too offensive. Our children's education needs proper scrutiny. To those leaving school, college or university who have not yet found a job or been offered a mortgage, let alone thought about a pension, are given all the tools to realise their ambitions and more. It is easy to delude oneself that all is well in the world, and equally to try and claim all is terrible. We need to acknowledge the good bits and fix the bad bits. As members, we each have a responsibility to ensure all areas where this council's influence reaches, our ambitions and our policies are grounded in balanced, informed research. This work should always be prominent, and we should champion the core values of this country. And the priorities of the people who put us here should always be at the forefront of our mind when making decisions. And we must, councillors, not shirk from this responsibility and not devalue it or allow anyone to devalue it. And we should dedicate ourselves to doing everything we can while we are members of this council to resolve these problems and, unfortunately, many more. I firmly believe, and those of you that know me know I'm a pessimist, but I firmly believe, and I am honest about this, that we live in the most exciting of times, and that we have time to ensure that we as a county and as a nation provide opportunity for all who wish to work for it and to support and help those that can't. I am ambitious for our area and what it can become, but if we do not address the problems in education and more, the system will tie the hands of many for their whole life. The education clock, I've said this before, has ticked by for many and is ticking by for many more. So let's do all we can to ensure that our time here is productive. We must inspire the next generation through words and deeds. We all play a part in this. It doesn't matter where we are from. It doesn't matter whether we're new members or old members. Our job is here to make a difference. Local government, for all its faults, and I'm probably one of the faults, and I've viewed many of them, but local government is the shop window of democracy. We must always be open to challenge and debate. We must never underestimate the ability we have to bring about positive change. Even if the process sometimes feels overwhelming, if we stick to our principles, remember who sent us here and why, then we can and we will make a difference. Our titles, councillors, our positions are not rewards or destinations. They are tools lent to us for 4 years to work on behalf of others. I look forward with you all for a year and 4 years of work and using our positions to make that difference. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to propose a motion of thanks to the retiring chairman, Alan Coburn. Do I receive a seconder? I'll second that, Chair. Okay, thank you, Councillor Warwick. We have a badge for Alan. Where's the badge? Okay. Mr. Coburn, would you like to say a few words? Would you like to use this microphone?
I will.
Okay, I'll move
I
out.
will stand up if you can. Why can't I? Thank you very much. In March last year, I went with a group of friends to my local tennis club with a view to becoming members. And afterwards, everyone agreed to sign up, but I told them I couldn't possibly join them as I was just about to become chairman of Warwickshire County Council and would be far too busy cutting ribbons and officiating all over the county. When I look back on that day, I find it astonishing that only a few days later, I wasn't aware what was about to unfold. And that a few days later, our lives would be turned upside down by a pandemic and a first lockdown. The previous chair, Nicola Davis, had her year stopped in its tracks at the same time. But when the annual meeting finally happened in July the 23rd, she was still able to report attending well over 100 functions in her year. And I've attended probably a handful. However, I have been able to fulfil the primary role as a chairman, which is to chair the full council meetings, albeit online. And during these meetings, I've tried to uphold the proud tradition of this council by giving all members a chance to be heard and ensuring that all decisions have been open and transparent. And can I thank Sarah Duxbury, Nicola Vine, Paul Williams and of course Monica for their guidance and advice in running these online meetings, which were we were sort of breaking new ground, weren't we? And last of all, I'd like to thank Dawn Mardle, who looks after the chairman's diary and everything else, for her calm efficiency this year. The last year has been a very difficult time for so many people. Vulnerable people have had to shield, families with children at home have had to homeschool, and frontline staff have been exposed to a deadly new virus, and worst of all, loved ones have been lost. So it's really uplifting to see today that we're all able to meet under one roof. And let's hope, that it's a beginning to start of normality. So thank you for the honour of being your chairman, and can I finish by being the first to congratulate Peter and hope you have a successful year. Thank you.
Thank you. Election of Vice Chairman. I call for nominations for Vice Chairman. Councillor Second. Councillor Second? Of course, yeah. I've got all this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. And may I, before I put my nomination in, may I just thank very much the outgoing chairman, Alan Coburn, for his year of office. He has fulfilled all of those ambitions that he put forward to us just now. His equality of discussion and debate has been very, very fair. And we've had some really interesting debates, and online has actually improved as we've got to know it better. So I think your guidance, Alan, has been fantastic in taking us calmly through what's been a very new world for all of us. I'd like also to congratulate you, Chair, on your nomination and hence being elected to this chair of office. What I note for all of this is that we are a kaleidoscope of people, and we are just little capsules of our society. And I think that is the rich reflection that we bring to our decision-making and our development of policies for our society, as you say. And I think we are the richer for it. There is nothing that is wrong about us. It is all right because we bring the different elements that enrich our decision-making. And to add to that, I would very much like to nominate Councillor John Horner for the role of Vice Chair, to you, Chair, for the next year to support you. Again, if I could just beg a moment of your time, John is, again, a really interesting character. He was educated in London and has studied engineering at university. John holds degrees from Cambridge, London, Yale, and Warwick universities. And on your theme of education, I think that's a really interesting reflection. A very well-educated person who will enrich again our perspectives. John has just completed 50 years as member of the Institute of Civil Engineers. He's also, interestingly, John represented Cambridge, London, and England, and Great Britain at rowing in the 70s. He's lived and worked in the USA and in Belgium and Sweden, and the work that has brought him to South Warwickshire has brought him here into our chamber today. He lives and has moved into a small farm in Claverden in 2003, and he represents that area and has done for 8 years, I believe it is. Oh, possibly rather longer even. I would like to say that as we sit in this room today, the history of this must not be lost on us. The societies that have decided the way of decision-making over many, many decades, nay, even hundreds of years, have decided within this room. And it is actually quite a step of history that we are here today. And although the pandemic has made it necessary, I don't think we should lose the moment. I would like to nominate Councillor John Horner as your Vice Chair for the next year.
Thank you, Councillor Seckham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your election. I'm sure you'll be a credit to the role, and I was more than happy to be your bagman this morning, so if you ever need that service again, I'm willing to help with that. And again, I'd like to thank Councillor Coburn for being an excellent ambassador for the county. How many initials AC? I never doubted it. Thank you, Councillor. I've been told by Councillor Horner I need to be extremely brief in this, so I will stick to that. All I will say is that being as he was an international athlete and rower, I'm sure he will be awesome in the role. Oh, they don't get any better. There's all sorts of things like choppy waters and repechage and all sorts, but no, I'll keep it brief because Councillor Horner is in throwing distance of me, so I'm sure he will be a credit to the role, and I look forward to hearing his wit and comments and what sorts of looks he gives occasionally. So I'm more than happy and willing, and it's my great pleasure to second the nomination for Councillor Horner.
Thank you, Councillor Crump. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, so may I ask for a vote on all those that support the proposal? Any votes against? Any abstentions? Congratulations. I don't know where we're going to sit on the boat together, but you have to put the chains on. Do you put the chains on yourself, Vice Chairman?
To do it himself.
Oh, he has to work. Oh, you're coming here now, aren't you? Well, the front table's IQ's increased now, so that's... I was speaking for myself, colleagues. Quick wit and repartee. That microphone will be taken away soon. Yeah, the jokes won't improve.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm very honoured to be elected as Vice Chair. And thank you, Councillor Seckham, for your kind words, and Councillor Crump for your very entertaining jokes. I don't think I'll be able to match Councillor Crump in his humour. I'm very, obviously, I'm very touched to be elected. And I first of all wish to congratulate Councillor Gilbert on his chairmanship. And I hope that during my time supporting the chairman in his vision for the county, I'll act fairly and without favour to all councillors. And I think what he has just said was a terrific aide-memoire to us as councillors as to what we should be trying to achieve in this chamber, and hopefully in the chamber next door, if, as Councillor Coburn said, we ever get to normality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we move on to agenda item 3, is that right, Chief Executive? To the general meeting. And I'll cover a few rules if we don't already know them. So we are using our discretion to remove the need to stand, although you may have noticed that a few of us have broken those before, to make it easier for streaming and also to make it easier for us to know where people are when the microphone's coming near. We ask members to raise their hand so that we can know that you wish to speak, and then the microphone, if we give a little time, the microphone will come towards you and then you can speak. There will be no rush in this meeting. We wish to hear people and we wish to trial this process because we may be doing this again in July. And we ask members to try and not leave the chamber. And by the way, the chamber looks older than it did last time. I don't know whether that's something's happened while we've not been here. But not to leave too often unless it's really necessary. But we are all adults, so you won't be told off for getting up and leaving. So the proper meeting starts. We have apologies for absence. Chief Executive, apologies for absence.
Councillor Roodhouse, Councillor Morgan and Councillor Watson.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. Agenda item 2, members' disclosure of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Do we have any? And I remind members they can speak of them through the agenda if they realise they haven't at first. Okay. And then agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Have all members seen a copy of this and read it? The 16th of March 2021. Are they happy for me to sign and therefore confirm them as an accurate measure of that meeting? Speak now or forever hold your peace. There we go. I think I've signed it in the right place. Okay, agenda item 4, we have announcements. I may stand for this. Colleagues, many of you will know that we have the sad announcement and the duty report of the passing of Councillor Chris Williams on Saturday, the 22nd of May. Those of us who knew Chris and watched him battle his illness will have considerable time for the way in which he dealt with it. He was a fine representative of his community and a good friend to many of us, and he will be sorely missed. Chris Williams was elected a member of this county from the 8th of June 2009 until May this year. In his first term, he was a member of the Environment and Economy and Health and Overview Scrutiny Committees. Chris went on to hold many positions during his time as a Warwickshire County Council member, including lengthy service on regulatory committees. His local area committee had a broad knowledge of many areas. He was a member of the OS Board, the Children and Young People OSC, Communities OSC, Corporate OSC, and many more, as well as a member of the Corporate Parenting Panel, which I sat on him with, and he was a very trusted and wise member on that. So I've read those notes, but from a purely personal point of view, he was a true gentleman and an absolute pleasure to know. And if we could even just get near what he was as a gentleman and a person, then we're doing well. He will be sorely missed by this chamber. I will miss his wit and his sarcasm, and he was a true and great gentleman and a pleasure to have known. So our condolences to his family. Councillor Holland, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I certainly echo your comments. I knew Councillor Williams as a member of the Corporate Parenting Panel, and he did a lot of work with our former Warwick North Councillor, Jenny St John, and they worked very effectively together, and I think that's a lesson for all of us, is to work with councillors, not necessarily in our own group. They organised events for our colleagues in the district and borough councils to make them aware of their responsibilities for corporate parenting, for example, housing. And I know they attended a number of conferences and other events together. And I remember talking to Chris Williams once, and he was telling me that he had arrived in England from India at the age of 8, and the ship pulled into Southampton on Christmas Eve, and they got the train to Waterloo, and there were no other trains, so he spent his first Christmas in England at Waterloo Station. And there was a lot more I wanted to ask, and now, of course, it's too late. But I certainly echo your comments, and Councillor Williams, Chris Williams, certainly did a lot of good work in Warwickshire, for which I think we should all be very appreciative and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Seckham. Jenny, an independent.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just, for your record, also say that I know that Councillor Mills and Councillor Barker would like to pay tribute to Councillor Williams. It is incredibly sad that after such a tough fight against his illness, and when he had had good news only the week before that the illness was in a degree of abatement, that actually suddenly this happened on Saturday. And he and his wife, Carol, who has been absolutely magnificent support to him, have lost that hope of a few weeks respite and an opportunity to have a little normality back in their lives. So for all that, I'm incredibly saddened. But I think we do need now to reflect on the man that we knew and liked, loved, and a friend of ours. I'm not going to go over all that you have said, because he was so proud to have been a councillor both at Stratford District and also in this council. He was so proud to have represented his areas and his parishes as long as he did. He was a man who had dignity, who also had very high standards of how people should behave, and that he purported to himself, and he behaved with great integrity at all times. His passion was driven by a background of his particular passion around children in care, the adoption panel, which he was on for many, many years, and corporate parenting. But it was driven by his own family reality, where he was an adoptive father, and they brought up their son as an adoptive son. And he brought all his experience to bear. and helped us in our role as corporate parents, reminding us, as we hear today for the very first time, every one of us is a corporate parent, and every one of us has a duty to our corporate children, the children in care, to give them the very best chance in life, and an example that he really led on. So he will be great loss to us, a really true friend, and many, many years I've known him, and I send our deepest sympathies to Carol and to his family.
Thank you, Councillor Seckham. Councillor Fradgley. Do you raise?
Thank you. I worked with Chris for a number of years, both at district and at county. I know that he has a splendid reputation here at county for his corporate parenting work, which has been so valued, and his compassion and support for Warwickshire children, which has truly changed lives.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley. Councillor Barker. Just here. Raise your hand, Councillor Barker, so they know. Thank you. Chris Mills. Councillor Chris Mills.
I perhaps knew a slightly different Chris because when I became a councillor here, he was the chief whip of the Conservative Party, and I managed to fail to turn up to meetings on time an unbelievable number of times because I still had a small child who had to be got to school. And so he and I spent quite a lot of time at loggerheads about attendance at meetings, but those loggerheads turned into a great fondness for one another. And he and I were both diagnosed with the same disease from which I recovered very easily and he didn't. And therefore we had a joint cause and could talk perhaps more freely than most people can about such a subject. He was a great mate. He told incredibly rude jokes, which some of you may not have heard, but I know I have. And I will miss him greatly. He was a real force.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. Councillor Chris Mills. If you raise your hand, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first met Chris in 1998 when we both stood as district councillors. He got through, I didn't, and I always say that I came second because it sounded better than coming last. But I got to know Chris over the years, and I don't know if you know that he had a most terrible accident a few years ago. It could have been 25 years ago. And during that time, he'd lost his memory completely. And when his wife went to see him in the hospital, he didn't know her. And when she used to take him in some food, he thought, what do I do with this? And he said, here's a banana. And he picked it up, and he didn't know. But what they thought, he could actually count to 10. So they knew there was something there. So it was very, very difficult years for him, but he gradually recovered his memory. And then, of course, later on, he actually had a stroke, so another battle he had to face. He called round to see me to drop his laptop off, and this was only last week. And I said, Chris, you look well. He said, yeah, I feel not too bad. He said, I'm just off to the hospital. The next day he phoned me. He said, Chris, he said the cancer stopped growing. I said, that's really, really, really good news. I said, absolutely super. He said, in his own droll way, he said, I might just last till Christmas. So I said, well, let's hope you do, Chris. That was it. And then on Saturday, I was decorating my son's house, and the phone rang, and I saw it was Chris. I saw Chris Williams, and he said, no, it's Carol, to tell me that Chris had died about midday on Saturday. He will be missed. I will miss his droll sense of humour, and again, like everybody else, send our condolences to Carol and the family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I've known Chris for a long while, serving with him at Stratford District Council, mainly on the planning committee, where his phrase was, if it's not right, it's wrong. So I will always remember that. Chris, great sense of humour. Yes, I'd heard one or two of his jokes as well, obviously to a better standard than mine, but obviously I couldn't repeat them here in front of this exalted company. And certainly he'd had this reputation for being grumpy, but once you got to know him, that was all a facade. He was a great character, and when we were at Napton Parish Council, we used to have grumpy and crumpy. So it was a bit of a dream team. So yeah, I will certainly miss Chris, a great gentleman, and with a lot of knowledge which he was happy to share with people. So I've lost two mentors with the late Councillor Stevens and obviously Chris Williams. So obviously being a councillor can damage your health, but I'm sure with Councillor Gilbert leading us on the path of virtue, we will cope for the next 4 years.
What a wise man. Thank you, Councillor Crump. Thank you, all members. Members, I unfortunately have the duty to announce the death of another former councillor, Councillor David Kohler, who served from 1993 to 1997 and has been referenced by my interest in politics at an early age. I certainly remember that gentleman's name. Now, one of my favourite councillors is going to speak on this, Councillor Sarah Bode. How nice to see you, Councillor Bode, and you will be speaking to this point.
I will. Thank you, Chair. Excuse me speaking up, but for those of us at the far end of the room, it's actually extremely difficult to hear those of you who are a long way away and who speak quietly. So can I encourage all of you to raise your voices a little, because the rest of us up here are spending all our time going like this. I guess the people on YouTube are having a better deal. I felt very privileged yesterday to attend David's funeral down in Eastbourne, where I'm glad to say that Warwickshire County Council got an honourable mention, and his election to Warwickshire County Council in 1993 got an honourable mention because he was a man who, having decided to do something, i.e. stand for the County Council, went all out, knocked on every door in the Old Manor division, and duly won. So he was a man of great activity and principle and passion. Sadly, the general election in 97 meant that he wasn't unable to hold his seat, but he served for many years as a district councillor. He was a school governor. He represented the county council on the Warwick District Council for Race Equality. He'd actually worked for on race equality for many years of his working life. He was, of course, elected during 93 to 97 for many members, because I think it's only Councillor Roothouse and myself who were actually here in 93 to 97. It was a very interesting time for the County Council because that was when schools reorganisation went on. Many of you probably don't remember first and middle schools, children not going to secondary till they were 12, but that's how it used to be. And the Education Committee has a huge role in actually reorganising the entire way that education worked in this county, and David had a big role to play in that. So it's really, really sad that I have to come here and speak about David, but he really, his legacy will live on in those communities. And I'm glad to say that most of the area that he represented in the Old Manor Division is now represented either by myself or Councillor Gifford. So his memory will live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bode. Members, if I may, those of you that are able, would you please stand for a minute's silence? Thank you, members. Agenda item 4, returning officer report. I believe this is just a standard practice. There isn't a report to be given, no? Yeah. Okay, the Chair to invite the Council to note the return of the persons elected as county councillors. No voting needed on this. So that was in brackets, not for me to repeat. Appointments of the Leader of the Council, agenda item 5. Do I have any nominations for Leader of the Council? Councillor Penny Ann O'Donnell. Nominations for Leader of the Council. Remind members, if they are speaking from the farthest corners, to speak as loudly as possible.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointment. Your vision for education truly resonated in this corner of the room, so thank you. I'm delighted to nominate Councillor Izzy Seckham as leader of the Council. Izzy makes a real and meaningful difference. During one of the toughest challenges our country has faced, Izzy has proved to be a fearless, visionary and compassionate leader, ensuring our residents have the opportunity to live their best lives. I'm lucky enough to share my district ward and many parish councils with Izzy and find her humour, diplomacy and work ethic truly inspirational. I'm therefore delighted to nominate Councillor Izzy Seckham as leader of the Council.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. And do I receive a seconder? Councillor Kettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I likewise have known Councillor Izzy Seckham for many years. She hails from the same part of Warwickshire as I do and was a former district councillor at Stratford when I joined some years ago. So without any further ado, I'm delighted to recommend Izzy, or second Izzy, to be leader of the council. There we go.
Thank you, Councillor Kettle. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, may I call for a vote then, please? All those in favour of the proposal? Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. Councillor Seckham, would you like to say a few words at this point?
Chairman, thank you, and may I thank both Penny Ann O'Donnell and Chris Kettle for their kind words and for their nominations, and I am delighted to accept this post again with a degree of humility, because for everything that you have said to us earlier today, and you've set the scene very well, I feel, we are here as a collective decision-making organisation. We don't make individual decisions, we make them collectively on the best evidence and information available. And we try our best to make Warwickshire the very best that it can be for all of our residents and for every business and every school, as you have quite rightly pointed us to. We need to try harder, always need to be better, and we need to be incredibly proud for all of those who we've just said goodbye to. We need to remember that what we do now is what they've tried to do as well. So I'm happy to take up this offer again, and I'm delighted to go forward as leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seckham. Agenda item 6, appointments to committees and other bodies. I believe that's you. No, if you leave the microphone there, that's again Councillor Seckham. Yeah. So I invite you to move that agenda item.
Thank you. We've had a discussion across the other group leaders. You have the paper in front of you, which has been actually worked out. I have to say, just a piece of paper like that takes many hours of discussion, debate, and listening to all the new members who are here today. And I know too that everyone has put a lot of effort into this. I hope very much all of you as members will look forward to being part of this council, contributing towards the committees that we have. And I move the committees as printed, and I believe that this will be en bloc, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Do I receive a seconder? John Holland? Councillor Holland, are you seconding this? Sorry, Chair. Are you seconding the Leader's proposal of the motion to the formation of the appointments and committees and other bodies?
Yes, Chair. Apologies, it is difficult to hear at this end, but certainly I formally second the Leader's proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Any debate on that? Are there any amendments? Okay, the good bit, if you feel you wish to, the debate on this agenda item. Any debate? Any member? No? Okay. So there's no seconder's right to reply, summing up. The vote. May we have the vote on this then, please? All those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Two at the back. Jonathan and New Green. Okay. Agenda item 7. Any other urgent business? I don't think we've had any Chief Executive, have we? Okay. That's the end of that council business. And we move on to leader decision making. So, Councillor Seckham to move her decisions.
Thank you once again. And I have to say, it does seem really odd that I don't stand up. And in the normal process of our business in the chamber, we always stand up. It seems more respectful, but please forgive me. It's not for any lack of respect. It is just because of the COVID constraints that we have to face today. So the leader decision-making part of the business of the council is for noting rather than for a vote. I've proposed my cabinet, which is on paper marked B, so I believe you will all have that. I look forward very much to working with those members in the course of the business of the council. I would like to take this opportunity to thank those members who have previously served on the council and really to say that I think we have been a very successful organisation for some years now, and it is not least because of the teamwork and the importance of ensuring that all voices are heard. Never more has it been more important that as we come out of what has been quite a landslide election, it has never been more important that we capture the views of every member and every group within this council. And I do pledge that. I do pledge that we ensure that we are an equal and fair council, despite the perceived numbers. It can be very challenging. So it is important that we do that, and I do say that we will do so. So from the point of view of the Cabinet support members, which you have noted as well, there are 5 Cabinet support members. On the whole, these will be new members, with the exception of Councillor Barker, who has more experience. We really hope to draw people in to gather that wide knowledge and to gain that knowledge for the future so that this council is future-proofed and that we really build the learning within our membership. I hope very much that this will be an exciting time for all members. We've heard from the chairman, it's never been a more interesting and exciting opportunity. We need to make good of that for Warwickshire. I move my decision-making paper. I believe I also need to move the members to the outside bodies as well, and I believe those also have been as printed. I'm looking to the Chief Exec for a nod.
There's no vote.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll wait till everyone's gone and then I'll start. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Seckham. I have a note here, brief to me, which says, Councillor, read this list slowly, how they know me well. So now we're going to talk about the election of Chair and Vice Chair of the committees, and I will go through the committees slowly. This is a learning curve for us, so bear with me. And I will read the names of the people who sit on these committees. You should have been made aware of this. And then we will ask you to vote for your Chairman and Vice Chairman, or Chair and Vice Chair. If you are on that committee, you can vote for that. If you're not, do not vote. And we will reiterate those points because I don't know whether I made any sense then. So, Staff and Pensions Committee. I shall read the members. If this is wrong, shout. The councillors who serve on that committee are Councillor Jens, Councillor Horner, Councillor Kettle, Councillor Simpson-Vince, Councillor Miller, Councillor Gifford. Is that fine? Open that meeting. Do we have any apologies for absence? Any declarations of any interest? Okay. Agenda item 2 of that meeting is the election of chair. So I invite nominations to serve as chair of the Staff and Pensions Committee. Do I have a mover? Councillor Horner.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Andy Jens as chair.
Thank you, Councillor Horner. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kettle. Okay, thank you, Councillor Kettle. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we call for a vote. Remember, if you serve on that committee, you can vote. If do not, don't vote. So all those in favour? Okay, and a vice chair, yeah? Okay, agenda item 3 of that committee is the election of a vice chair. Do I have any nominations? Oh, sorry. Is it Andy? Yeah. I'll hand over to you now. Sorry, Andy. I got carried away then. Just as I was getting used to it. I'm not having it back from him now. He can have it. It's his.
Thank you, Chair. From the Chair, I would like to nominate Councillor Bill Gifford as Vice Chair of the Staff and Pensions Committee.
Do I ask for a second? Receive a seconder. Councillor Horner. Any other nominations? No? Okay. A vote, please. All those in favour? Yep. Okay, thank you. This is appointment to outside bodies. That's right. Do that now. Yep. Agenda item 4, appointment to bodies. The Chair of the Committee, Andy Jens, to move the appointments set out in paper marked C. Is that right?
Yes, I move that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe Councillor Gifford, you're seconding that. Thank you, Councillor Gifford. All those in favour, please vote. Meeting 3. Read slowly. Pension Fund Investment Subcommittee. I will read the members of this committee slowly, and all those in, if there are any errors, please let me know. The members who sit on this are Councillor Horner, Councillor Kettle, Councillor Simpson-Vince, Councillor Miller, Councillor Gifford. Is that right? Okay, we open that meeting. Apologies. Declarations of interest. Election of chair. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Simpson-Vince. Nomination.
Thank you. I'd just like to congratulate yourself and Councillor Horner on the coming year, and I hope you have a good and interesting year. And I would like to nominate Councillor John Horner for the position of chair of this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson-Vince. Councillor Kettle, you wish to second? Thank you. Any other nominations? All those that sit on that committee in favour, please vote. Okay, election of vice chair. I think I hand over to Councillor Horner, do I, at this point, for...
Yes. Thank
Councillor
you,
Horner.
Chair. As chairman, first of all, thank you for being elected. I wish to nominate Councillor Bill Gifford for vice chair. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Councillor Kettle. Your arm will drop off soon.
No.
Do I have any other nominations? Or do you do that?
I do that.
Okay, you do that. Sorry,
As there are
John.
no other nominations, could we vote, please? Those in favour? That's unanimous.
Good meeting, Vice Chairman. That was.
Thank you, Chair.
Meeting 4, Regulatory Committee. I will once again read the members on that. Councillor Cook, Councillor Simpson-Vince, Councillor Mills, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kenner, Councillor Warwick, Councillor Clark, Councillor Massetti, Councillor Kerridge, Councillor Spencer, Fenny and Falp. Is that right? Some of the surnames may have been pronounced wrong. I apologise. Okay, we open that meeting. Any apologies? Declarations of interest. And the election of chair. Do I have a mover for the election of chair? Councillor Simpson-Vince.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor John Cook.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson-Vince. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mills, thank you. I hand it over to Councillor Cook. Oh, a vote first. Sorry, I presume. A vote? I'll get it right eventually. You say I was right there, Councillor Cook. Councillor Cook, would you like to take over the meeting?
Thank you. Can I have nominations, please, for Vice Chairman? And the nomination is actually going to come from me. So I move Councillor Jill Simpson-Vince as Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Second that. Thank you, Councillor Canner. Any other nominations? Do I ask for one? And a vote, please, all those on the committee. Meeting 5, Adult Social Care and Health OSC. I once again read the members. Councillor Golby, Councillor Cook, Councillor Mills, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Anne O'Donnell, Councillor Matecki, Councillor Tromans, Councillor Holland, Councillor Rolfe and Councillor Drew. I open that meeting. Any apologies? Any declarations of interest? And the election of chair. Do I have a mover for the election of chair? Councillor Cook.
I'd like to move Councillor Claire Golby to be the chairman of the committee, please.
Do I receive a seconder? Councillor Humphreys. Marion Humphreys. Over right at the back, gentlemen.
I'd like to second that, please, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. With pleasure, I hand over to Councillor Golby. Oh, a vote again. Sorry. May we have a vote on that? All the committee members who are on that committee. Please raise your hands. Don't look sheepish if you don't know what's going on. I'm sure you've realised I don't, so that's fine. Carried. Now I hand over to Councillor Golby.
Can I ask for the nominations for Vice Chair?
Right, nominations for Vice Chairman.
That would be me.
Yep.
Nominating Councillor Holland.
Councillor Holland. Do you receive a second?
Seconder.
Councillor Rolfe. Does any of them wish to speak, do they? Yep.
I second the proposal for Councillor John Holland as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. I'm enjoying this part of my life. It's the first time ever I've been told to go slower. I mean, I'm pretty slow anyway. I will slow down now, Chief Executive. Thank you. Children and Young People OSC. I will once again read the members of the committee. Councillor Damash, Councillor Barker, Councillor Beetham, Councillor Kerridge, Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Simpson-Vince, Councillor Marion Humphreys, Councillor Brian Hammersley, Councillor Brown and Councillor Roothouse. I will open that meeting. Any apologies? Councillor Roothouse is not here. Any declarations of interest? Election of chair. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barker.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Damash as Chairman of the committee.
Thank you. Do I receive a seconder, Councillor? Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kerridge.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kerridge. Any other nominations? We'll move to the vote. All those that sit on the committee, please vote. Mr. Chair, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I nominate Councillor Jerry Root
vice chair of the committee and ask for a seconder.
Councillor Brown is to second.
Yes, I'm happy to second Councillor Routehouse as Vice Chair.
Okay, and welcome as well, Councillor Brown.
Are there any other nominations? In that case, everyone in favour, can they raise their hands? I think that's carried. So back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Communities OSC, agenda meeting 7. I'll read again the members. Councillor Clark, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Dave Humphreys, Councillor Pemberton, Councillor Wright, Councillor Baxter Payne, Councillor Panda, Councillor Darcy, Councillor Fradgley and Councillor Chilvers. I'll open that meeting. Any apologies? Any declarations of interest? Okay, the election of chair. Do I receive a mover for the election of chair? Councillor Panda. Thank you. Do I receive a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Any other nominations? If we all move to the vote, please.
Could you raise your hands?
If you're on that committee. Carried. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations on your election and on your election. Can I move on then to the election of Vice Chair for the Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee? I formally nominate Councillor Jonathan Chilvers and I call for a seconder.
Councillor Fradgley. Is it his chair in the
Delighted to second Councillor Jonathan Chilvers as Vice Chair of the Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Call for a vote on that, please. All members of that committee. Thank you.
Raise your hands, please.
Oops. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Meeting 8, I believe, Resources and Fire Rescue, OSC. I will read the membership of that committee. Councillor Warwick, Councillor Singh Birdie, Councillor Daniel, Councillor Watson, Councillor Markham, Councillor Spencer, Councillor Tromans, Councillor Phillips, Councillor Bode and Councillor Roberts. I will open that meeting. Any apologies for absence? Councillor Watson. Any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Election of chair. May I have a mover for the election of chair? Councillor Singh Birdie.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to nominate Councillor Aidan Warwick for the chair, please.
Thank you, Councillor Singh Birdie. Do I receive a seconder? Councillor Tromans, Rob Tromans.
Thank you, Chair, and I offer my congratulations to you, Councillor Horner, and take pleasure in seconding Councillor Adrian Warwick.
Thank you, Councillor Tromans. Any other nominations? May I call for a vote? All those that are on that committee, please vote. That's carried. Election of Vice Chair, over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I warmly congratulate you on your much deserved appointment to Chairman of this Council? And from the Chair, can I nominate again Councillor Singh Birdie to be Vice Chairman of the committee for the forthcoming year? Do I receive a seconder? Councillor Rob Tromans, thank you. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chairman? Can I call for a vote on that, please, for Councillor Singh Birdie to be appointed Vice Chair? I believe that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think he's given me that. Okay. Meeting of the Dispensation Subcommittee. Same again. I will read out slowly. The members of the subcommittee are Councillor Horner, Councillor Kettle, Councillor Fenny, Councillor Hammersley, Councillor Singh Birdie, Councillor Gifford. And the subcommittee nominations for chair and seconder. Chris Horner, I believe you're nominating. Yep.
I wish to nominate Councillor Bill Gifford as chair.
And do I receive a seconder? Councillor Singh Birdie. Vote. Do we have a vote? Okay, is that it? All of it? Oh, Councillor Gifford. Would you like to second? Is that no? Oh, open your meeting. Sorry, Councillor Gifford. Yeah, the script went away. Councillor Gifford's there. Gentleman there with the. It wasn't me, was it? The script.
Thank you. Yes. It's a meeting. It's the dispensations subcommittee doesn't meet often, but what it does do is it enables the council to operate, and I think it's important to realise that it provides a lot of us sit on other councils, a lot of us have spouses who sit on other councils, and the granting the dispensation to all those who have those commitments does enable the council to operate. There are often cases where we will have, so it's important that we do grant dispensations to all members of the council where there are those conflicts that would otherwise occur. So I would hope that we can sort of do that now rather than having to come in for another meeting, and agree to grant the dispensations to all the to everybody in that position on this council. That is what I would propose, that we grant the dispensations, and I would hope to get a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Gifford. He's a seconder.
Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Warner. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. I don't believe I have any other items of business. So before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank all of the officers for preparing this room and for us getting actually back in the building. It's been a long time, and I think it's where we need to be. I'm a fan of the fact that democracy needs us to turn up, and it's very hard to do it from home. May I also take the opportunity to thank Ben and his camera crew, who I believe have made me look brilliant at least. And it's nice to see Ben. Ben actually was a colleague from the Neaton Bedford Borough Council, so nice to see him again after 10 or 11 years. Thank you for bearing with us. If we are in here, I hope it gets better, and we'll look forward to seeing you all next time. So thank you. Oh, the bit that I've always wanted to do in my life, if you'd like to leave slowly and to keep your distance, and the exits are obviously there. Thank you.